Good morning, welcome to Catex TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Wednesday, February 13th, 2013. Last night at the U.S. Capitol, President Barack Obama gave his State of the Union address in front of a packed house, a national TV audience. Now, the gist of it is that the primary focus seems to be on gun control. This time it looks as if there might actually be support in the Congress to at least institute some sort of basic gun control in the United States on national background checks as a requirement for the purchase of all weapons. We'll see. Back in our world, global insurance broker Willis has reported a net loss after tax of about $446 million for all of 2012. This is compared with a $204 million profit for 2011. That's a $650 million swing. The company also revealed plans to cut about 200 full-time jobs. This is a result of a review of the company by the broker's new management team, led by the recently installed new CEO, Dominic Casserly. Casserly took over from previous CEO Joe Plumeri on January 1st. The bulk of Willis's expenses were from one-off charges that Willis had announced on December 19th that they were going to take. Stripping out these exceptional charges, Willis would have made a profit of about $454 million in 2012, which is down about 6% from the $482 million that it would have made in 2011, but for charges that it took then. Accounting is a very interesting thing. Stripping out a 1.8% reduction caused by currency movements, organic commissions and fees growth were 3.1%. This puts Willis behind rivals Marsh, Aon, and now Arthur J. Gallagher. So on growth, at least for 2012, they were number 4. Speaking of Marsh McLennan narrowed the revenue lead of the largest insurance broker Aon even further in 2012 as organic growth revenue outstripped its larger peer. According to figures that Marsh released on Monday, revenue was $6.6 billion during 2012, up from $6.3 billion in 2011. Earlier this month, Aon had reported revenues of $7.6 billion, so that's $1 billion ahead of Marsh. 1 year ago, it had been $1.2 billion ahead of Marsh. Underpinning Marsh's performance in 2012 were organic revenue growth of 5%. Carpenter, the reinsurance subsidiary, contributed organic revenue growth of 6%. Nuclear Electric Insurance Company Limited is facing the biggest payout of its 40-year history after agreeing to hand over $835 million to Duke Energy after the decision was taken to retire the Florida-based Crystal River nuclear facility plant. The Crystal River plant was closed in 2009 after a sizable crack in its concrete containment vessel was discovered during work to replace the generators. Repairs to that crack in 2011 were thought to have cost more than $500 million, but those repairs apparently created even more cracks. The plant's operator at the time was Progress Energy, which was later acquired by Duke Energy, which now stands in its shoes, was trying to decide whether or not they were going to restore the plant as a viable option, but in the end decided to forget it. Now, under the primary insurance program, Nuclear Electric Insurance offers limits of up to $500 million per site, with additional coverage of up to about $2.25 billion per site under its excess program. Numerous questions were being raised by Duke Electric and the customers of Duke Electric, other electric companies, as to how the payouts from the insurance company were going to be handled. A number of other electric companies that buy from Duke said that the second series of cracks, which occurred in March of 2011, should count as a second separate event, as the nuclear electric policy incepted every year on April 1st. As such, the customers reasoned that the two sets of cracks fell under two separate coverage periods, therefore two separate $490 million limits for business interruption should be applied. Naturally, the insurance company fought this. It's a little bit like the World Trade Center in September of 2001. Were two events involved, or was it one event? Of course, in that case, it was famously decided that it was one event. But apparently, it has been agreed to that this will count as two events. Mediation has resulted in an agreement that the insurer and Duke Energy have agreed to a payout of $835 million, significantly above the $490 million limit of whether it had been one event. There was a series of earthquakes in Nevada yesterday afternoon. The biggest one was a 5.1, hit at about 7:10 p.m. Eastern Time, about 200 miles south of Reno. There were 3 aftershocks, 3.1, 3.3, and 3.7. Within the next 45 minutes, there was no damage or injuries reported. Iran said this morning that it has in fact started to install a new generation of machines for enriching uranium. This is likely to annoy the West because it now means that they're going to be even moving closer to faster production of enriched uranium, which could in fact be used for either peaceful purposes to generate electricity or in fact could be used for a bomb. There are a number of articles that appear in Western newspapers, in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, indicating that in fact the Iranians may be moving toward using the enriched uranium for peaceful purposes. Of course, nobody knows for sure. The situation in Iran is very murky. It's not known exactly who's calling the shots, although most likely it is Ayatollah Khatami, who is the supreme leader. Scores of heavily armed gunmen stormed a military base in southern Thailand this morning in a major assault that left about 16 attackers dead. This is according to a military spokesman. No military casualties were reported in the early hours assault. The attack apparently came after they were able to secure the camp, so as a result they were expecting the attack, so all the Thai soldiers were safe. There has been an insurgency in southern Thailand down near the Malaysia border for the past 6 years. It's claimed over 5,300 lives. The cruise line Carnival is saying that the passengers aboard that stranded ship, the Carnival Triumph, that's being towed slowly in the Gulf of Mexico, are being made as comfortable as possible, and they've disputed some indications that have come from some of the passengers by phone, saying that there is no running water and are no existing toilets. Passengers said that the ship does have running water and most of its 23 public restrooms and some of the guest cabin bathrooms are indeed working. According to reports, passengers have been handed plastic bags to, quote, use to do their business. Some heavier seas are expected, 4 to 6 feet. The ship is still about 36 hours out of Mobile, Alabama, where it's being towed to right now. There are 3,143 passengers on board and 1,086 crew members. They're all operating on emergency backup power. And it's quite possible that there are no functioning toilets, no air conditioning, no lights, and there's a lot of unhappy people when that ship gets into Mobile tomorrow night. That will be very interesting to see. That's the news for today. If we have any breaking news, we'll come back and tell you. Thank you for watching.